Hello, everyone. I think it's time to start, and we also have a full house here. So good. I think it's going to be a good ride. So I think everybody knows that today's topic, our today's discussion is about how we can make our society more wealthy. And what I mean by that is how we can get maximum returns for all the research work that is actually happening within the universities. Because once they started getting return for all their research, it is all going back to the society. That means we are creating a wealthy society. And based on all my experience of working in this industry for a very long time, actually I figured out that there are ways and there are a lot of ways. It's just that we are not utilizing those models right now. So that is the plan of talking about in this presentation and sharing with you some of my experiences and some of my experience with working with the people who have done this in a very successful way. And I would love to see some of you implementing it at your side. So let me start with giving you some idea and a story. So this was to set the background, there was a research that was done by Bob Luckey, and it was funded by National Research Council in US. And the research was to understand that all the research work that is happening in the world, who is doing this research? I mean, we see all new type of technologies coming up, but we don't know who is doing all of that research if we see the history of mankind. So Bob Luckey, what he did, he built a team and he analyzed all the research works that have happened. And he figured out that if we talk about the research work till 1980, around 85% of the publications were written by industry. And this was fantastic because 85% of the publication means that everybody, I think there was some notification. Let me read that. Some person have some question. Okay, yeah. So I think as I was starting, this questions were started coming, but I think we will take all the questions later. So yeah, so in 1980, 85% of the research were written by industry, and it is pretty fantastic because industry is always trying to come up with new product and they want to come up with new ideas, and that's how all of this was coming up. As people started looking at the, as the era progressed in 90s and 2000, what he found out is that in 2006, or we say that within this period, only 7% of the publications were written by industry. Now that is a pretty surprising thing, that why only 7% is being written by the industry. Now, this means that what is happening with all the other publications is this decreased, and why it is decreased. So there was more time that was spent in this research, and it was figured out that industry was going more and more secretive in their type of research and what they're doing, and because of which academia was getting more and more clueless. Now what I mean by more and more clueless, so let's get into the reality. So when we look at the current scenario of licensing, and when we talk about the current scenario of licensing, if we remove the premier institutes of every country, so when I talk about Stanford, MIT, or UCLA, similarly in Europe, if we remove those universities, what we are going to find is that all the other universities are pretty much just doing research and not being able to successfully license their patents or transfer the technology to the industry. And this is a problem across worldwide. And I have met with a lot of funding agencies, a lot of institutes, their work is only research work, and figured out that nobody is actually able to successfully license their technology or make money out of it. And when we performed additional research on it, we figured out that it is not the problem with the research. The problem is that the researchers or the academia is spending more and more time on studying the journals. And journals is also written by academia, as we see that now only 7% of the publications are written by the industry. So what is actually happening is, because of all of this, the academia does not know what kind of problems need to be solved. That means they are doing research, but their research is not actually aligned towards the type of problems that industry is solving. Now, how will they come to know about these problems? Because so this is the biggest gap that came in. Now, this gap was creating all the issues with respect to the licensing or the technology transfer. So what is the biggest, if I say that if we are talking about the tech transfer programs or the IP department in the university, I think the first thing that they should try to figure out is that how they can make all the research that is going on in the universities or in their academia or in the institutes, how they can make all of these research focus towards the problem that industry is trying to solve. And I'm not talking about the basic research. I'm talking about the applied research. Because when internally academia is focusing on applied research, it has to solve the problems that industry is solving. Otherwise, nobody needs that kind of research. So, I'm also going to suggest such kind of how to solve these problems by suggesting a model that has been very successful with our clients. So I can see more questions coming up. So we are going to take all of these questions at the end of the presentation. I think keep putting up all of this question. We are going to answer all of them in the end. So because of the story that you just heard or the research that you just heard, which said that the industry is becoming more and more secretive about their problems. So all the money that is actually going into R&D is getting wasted because the patents are not giving ROI. And all the funding that is happening in the research is also not of much use because that research is not giving returns. So there needs to be a model basically which can solve all of this problem. So let's talk about why or in which situations this kind of model would be very useful. So when you are at a stage where there's a large amount that needs to be invested and you need to figure out that where to invest. Now this is a very, very early stage of investment. The second is that when you already have the technology, you need to figure out that where this technology would be applicable, or whom should be approached, or which company should be approached to commercialize these technologies on how to improve it. So this model is going to answer all of these questions, which sometimes we do not pay that much importance on because all our time is getting spent in just figuring out filing patents, managing them, or managing just the invention disclosure. So let's go forward and talk about how we can solve this problem. So what we have talked about is these three specific things. Strategic technology investment, that means where to invest, what to do with the applied research, and then the third and the most important part, identifying the solutions that are licensable. That means doing the research that people need, that industry needs. So, and how to give this message to all the professors or all the researchers that are working day and night within the university or within the institutes. So what I've done is that I've broken down all of this part into 3 steps. So let's talk about the first step, which is the technology investment model. So in this technology investment model, that means when you are trying to fund, or when the funding agency is trying to figure out that should we invest or should we not invest, or to whom to invest. The biggest important factor of what we have seen is that every institute has some large technology area defined. So sometimes it could be solar, that we want to invest in the clean energy part. Sometimes it is on that we want to invest in driverless car. Sometimes it is on the big problems that the country is is facing. And so that is very well defined. But what is not defined is that within this purview of the technology domain, what we should actually fund, how we should figure out that this is eligible or not. Is this enough for any proposal to come under a solar and it is enough to fund? Or, so every university also or funding agency also have a very good evaluation judges, that give their own opinion that it should be funded or not. But those are opinion based on their knowledge. That is not based on the data. So here I'm going to talk about that how data can play a part. So look at this model. So what is happening is that even the judges, which may comprise of elite professors or the industry leaders, are majorly depending most of their things on the research paper, white papers, or the market reports that are coming up. Now, the biggest factor in terms of the data analytics that is missing is the combination of these three things. That means the patent, the research paper, and the market reports. Now, let me give you an idea that how this can completely change the type of analysis that would come up when you look at these three things together. So look at this. So this is the kind of dashboard that we have prepared, which is based on the analysis of the patent data. So let's take an example of one technology, and if you're looking at that one technology, and if every researcher within the university who is working on this technology can get to know the complete landscape and what each company is doing and what kind of problems they are solving, he can exactly figure out that what he should be focusing on. Or over the period of time, 3 to 4 years, he can see that how the industry is changing and how he can slowly align his research toward the same direction. I will give you an example. In fact, today's example itself. So we have given such kind of models to some of our clients who have expanded such dashboard to made it available to everyone in the university. And we have a small chat box here. That means if you have any question, any researcher, he can ask that. And as soon as they made it available to everyone, people were finding so much of new information because it was available in a structured manner. They can drag and drop, they can click, they can find out what they can do out of it. They were getting a lot of new information which otherwise was not available, because what they were reading was the journals, what they were reading was just the papers. They were never looked at from the data perspective. So this is one example how first problem of that where within a particular technology domain an investment need to happen can be solved. So with this kind of information, you can see that a lot of answers can be derived for this major question, that is this research worth investing or not? Is this lie in an area where a lot of others are trying to solve or not? Is this research area dominated by companies or just the universities? And you would not believe, we have found out that a lot of universities are working on a technology in which no industry is working. And it is about the applied research. Now you may say that industry is not working because industry right now do not feel a need of it. But the problems that are defined in the patents or the problems that are defined by in the research paper is about the next 5 years that they want to solve. And if it is not defined, then they should be given a second thought on that can the researcher break down his research into smaller parts and somehow produce small inventions in between that can resolve the problems of the industry, and it can also be licensed. Now, this is a way how as the research is happening, it also is creating some output which industry need immediately. So other type of questions that can be answered is that, is this research area mature or is just at the infancy stage? You can see, this is not just based on subjective data. It is not based on experience. It is actually based on objective data. And you can see how it is varying over the period of time as well. That means year on year. Now, similarly, what happens is that when the data is very large, so I know that when the data is large and the researchers are looking at the journals, which could be Science Direct or which could be IEEE. There's so much information that they can just read a couple of papers, and that couple of papers are not enough to actually give an idea that what is happening. So how they can figure out these hidden trends. So now let me move you to one example like here. So this is the dashboard that I was talking to you about. Now look at this dashboard. It has some specific set of questions already defined. Here I'm taking an example of 3D printing. Now if you see this example, if this is given into the hands of a researcher who is working in the domain of 3D printing, he can exactly get to know that what kind of inventions are working in the metal, using the metal as a composition. He can get to know exactly the metal and its composition also while he's interacting with it. He can get to know specifically if he's targeting Siemens, that what is Siemens doing in this industry. So if I click on Siemens, I will get to know only on their patents. So you can see that they are using very less patents or using plasma. So do they need plasma patents or they do not need? So if your research is only on plasma, that means you are working in an area where the industry is not working. And this can be dig deeper to figure out that industry is not working because they don't have a solution, or industry is not working because they don't have a need of it. And that gives a lot of ideas to the researcher and make their come up with the inventions or come up with the patents that are licensable. So there are a lot of things that can be done, that this model provides. But I think today the idea is not to talk about this model, but it is more to specifically about the 3D printing. But it is to give you an idea that how this can be solved. So as you are looking at this, if you have any question on the model, if you have a good question on the dashboard, you can see a specific questions tab in the control panel on the GoToWebinar. So you can just type those questions here. There are a few people already typing, so you can also type your questions and we will take them in the end. So when we move forward, here is another example that how you can break down the stuff. So you can break down by specifically clicking on the company. You can look at what type of metallic components. You can drill down and actually see that most of the people are using nickel alloy. Am I also using nickel alloy or not? Or if I'm using something else, so would that be giving a better efficiency than nickel alloy or not? So it's come up with amazing insight for the researcher, and as an output, what you are going to get is licensable patents. What I've done is I've tried to combine all the advantage that it provides once you start using such kind of model within your institute. So what happens is that you have started aligning the research with respect to its final goal. So the end goal of the research is that it should be used in the society, that there should be people who can get benefit out of it. Now, when you provide this kind of problems to the researcher, they align their goal with respect to that what gives the maximum benefit to the society. And this is kind of win-win situation for everybody. When I say win-win situation, that means the researcher, it's a win-win for the researcher, for the university, and the industry, because industry is looking for the technology that they can immediately use and bring it to the market. So we are also, we work with a lot of university as well as with the companies. And last week we were working with a telecom giant, and with one of the R&D department posed us a question that we are building a next generation of wireless charging products. So we all know that wireless charging means it's everything is in the, you don't need to put your phone nearby a wireless charger. Also, it's in the room itself. And they figured out that they are looking for a solution that when they do wireless charging, the phones were becoming very hot, and they were looking for something which can reduce this heat that is getting generated because of this wireless charging. Now here you see the problem is very well defined. There might be a lot of universities who might already be having an answer for that, or they may be working on wireless charging for a very long time. I know a lot of universities are actually working on wireless charging. But if they do not know that within this technology domain, what problems the industry is facing, they may continue to work on wireless charging without coming up with any solution for the heat, whereas industry needs heat solution at this point of time. So this is the whole idea that I wanted to share with you, that it's okay to have a long-term approach, but as you are focusing on the long-term approach, keep a close track on what are the problems coming up. So it increases actually, it makes you a very strong, because you start funding the research proposals that give return. You can reuse this knowledge that you are getting because of this dashboard, because all of the researchers that are using it, feeding the information into it. You have a better decision making. You are increasing your commercialization potential, getting returns or money. So, and you are providing effective use of the funding that is happening. So it's like a win-win for everybody. So there's a set process which already universities use. That means they try to figure out the technology, they try to collect all the information, which could be invention disclosure, patents, and all of that stuff, and they try to also estimate the market. But what is missing in this whole process is also a very important part, which is the investigation support. So what I mean by investigation support is actually to figure out that by using this data, is the inventor trying to solve significant industry problem or not? So let me give you again one example. Now here I have listed down some common techniques that researchers use when they are coming up with their new idea or when they are working on their research. Now, side by side, if they get access to a huge data set, which gives them an idea that one of the biggest problems that the university is facing or industry is facing is on the sphericity of the molecule, or another problem that they're facing is on the power consumption of the battery in the mobile phone, or it could be related to the oxidation of produced power. So while you are working on all of these or using this process, you know that if I can solve this, immediately my technology can be licensed to somebody. And that is a huge direction for the researchers. Now, here I'm giving you one more example, which is more, which will give you much more. If you are a scientist, it will give you much more specific direction. You can exactly get to know that what shape, what size, and what property industry is targeting. So you don't try to focus on cuboidal shapes if the industry is trying to fix the spherical shape. You do not try to work on the particle size, which is greater than this 1 to 100 nanometer or smaller than this, when the industry needs this size of the particle. And all of this information can be automatically generated from the dashboard. So it is not just the high-level information. It is drilling down the information to a level where you can get to know exact thing that people are looking for. So here, there are a lot of examples that I've added based on the different industries, going to the specific level of the, metals used, their compositions, everything can be identified as we see. So here, I just showed you the 3D printing dashboard, that how you can slice and dice the data, how you can get the different insights. Now here, I've produced a specific example. So look at this. Here, by analyzing the patterns, we figured out that within the 3D printing, industry is trying to solve a particular way in which they can keep the shape of the powder as spherical. Now, how we found out from the patterns, because in every pattern, there is a problem that is defined that the industry is trying to solve. And when you cluster all of those problems, you can figure it out in an easy way that what is in demand at this point of time. Now, there are a lot of solutions that are already available in the market. That means if you look at here already available research. Now this, this research is from a German university. This research is from the Nanjing University from China, but nobody has licensed it. The reason is because this particular research is not being done in a form or not being shared in a form that it can directly reach to the industry. But this is a very important step, that if the solution exists, if the people who need the solution exist, why there is no match that is there. And that's why I was talking about why only the premier or very selective top 5% of the university or top 10% of the universities are able to license and not all the others. So here, it gives you a lot of information when you set up this model. It gives you an also idea about that what kind of licensing is happening between the universities who are trying to come up with inventions. You can see those licenses. You can see that you can give this information to the researchers so that if they can collaborate, it would add more value to their research that they are doing. So now coming over to the last aspect, which is the licensing and commercialization aspect, because once you have funded the right technology, once you have given them the right set of problem statements and they're giving you those kind of solutions, now it is a duty to get those solutions in front of the industry, or I would say the right company that needed at that point of time. So that is what is the last part, and which is the most important here. So we talked about that, how some of the major universities are making significant amount of money, revenues from the patent licensing, and why only the selected few is doing. I also shared with you the research work that was done by Bob Luckey, because he proved that why only few universities are able to do it, because these universities are following a model of providing information to their professors about the problem statements. Now look at this. The R&D expenditure that is being made and how much income is being derived out of those. Now look at the difference here, 53 million and 8,000 as the licensing income. And for a lot of universities, this is basically zero. And some of the places where we have implemented such kind of model, within a period of 2 months, a lot of technologies we have seen started coming, which were giving answers to some of the problems. That means some of the patents that we could see are currently being filed by the industry. That means you can relate because when the researchers got the direction, they were started providing the solutions then and there itself. So here is the whole step-by-step process that we would like to suggest, which is more about that, building the portfolio, identifying which are the good ones, preparing, identifying the commercialization potential. That means finding the companies that want ready to license, which could be the target buyers or licensor, and then in the end monetization. So there is a set way on how it can be done. The only thing is that we have to come out of the traditional model of the technology transfer and use data to give insights to the researchers and fellow professors. So that is where I'm going to stop, because it's right on 30 minutes, and now I'm going to come over to the questions that have been put forward by the audience or my attendees, and it's going crazy because we have a lot of questions. I think one of the question is, okay, I think there is somebody who is asking to privately connect because they want to talk about this, about this solution. Great. Then I can see Christina from Los Alamos National Laboratory. I think she has raised her hand. She wanted to ask a question. Okay. All of this process takes around 2 months from the start to actually producing this kind of custom dashboard. And from the 2 months, there is around 1 to 1.5 months of some training sessions that are done. There are tutorials that are given to everybody, and after that, it is like a default dashboard, or I would say default web page in every browser of the researcher, because whenever they come in the morning, they would like to know what new has been done in their domain. And it's a fantastic way, because it is not thousands of papers that they have to read. It is a classified, clustered information. So yeah, based on my experience, it has been that this kind of dashboard has become a default dashboard of every researcher, and that has helped in giving insight every day. So that means when I would come in the morning, I would want to know that what new has been done in my domain, what new problem people are trying to solve, so that I'm updated about everything that is happening in my industry, and that gives you huge power. So it's kind of, that's how the whole become from 1 month to 4 months time period, how you can do it. So here, I think I would like to stop, because it's kind of 5 minutes of questioning. If you have more questions, feel free to email me directly. My email address is deepak@GreyB. That is my first name @greyb.com. And of course, you also have my email, because I have emailed you how to connect. So you all have my email address directly in your inbox. So you can just hit a reply and ask me any question on any of these topics. It was great talking to everybody, and I think let's generate wealth for the whole society. Thank you very much. Have a nice day ahead. Bye-bye.